Welcome to our course on resilience. Many of us believe that executives have special skills and talents, and that is why they are successful. The truth of the matter is that aptitude is not a guarantee of success and has less to do with success than fortitude. That means to become an executive, you aren't born with innate traits that make you special. It means those who achieve this in their career earn it. Your ability to stick to something, to think and practice it deeply, and to persevere in the face of adversity is what we call resilience. We are all going to face obstacles in our lives and our careers. Believe me, I certainly have. But those with executive presence confront those obstacles differently than do the rest of us. They see through the obstacles, they maintain a growth trajectory, they have the positive outlook and belief in themselves that things are going to turn out okay. When they see someone who has failed, they find the right words to encourage them to keep going and growing and recognize that failure is just a step on the way to success. Angela Duckworth wrote a best-selling book that we love called Grit. She says that greatness is doable. Greatness is many, many individual feats, and each of them is doable. Duckworth created a short quiz to test your level of grittiness. You can complete the quiz in your workbook by turning to exercise number 8. Pause the video now and take the quiz. Your score is a reflection of how you see yourself right now. This score tends to change throughout your lifetime. The older you are, research suggests the higher your grit score tends to get, which dovetails nicely with the development of executive presence. Note that your answers to the odd number questions in the quiz give you an indication of your passion score. In the words of Duckworth, passion for your work is a little bit of discovery, followed by a lot of development, and then a lifetime of deepening. And passion has a lot to do with doing what you love and not being so focused on what everyone else thinks you should be doing. Others have identified the role that passion in our careers, for the people we work with, and the organizations we work with has on our success. Zoller and Preston, in the book Enhancing Your Executive Edge, stated that passion plus intent equals results. We live with passion on a daily basis by believing in ourselves. Passion makes us proactive and intentional in what we do. Returning to the grit quiz one more time, the even-numbered questions indicate your level of perseverance. How long do you stick with something before you give up? Most people score higher in perseverance than they do in passion. Duckworth has found that high grit scores come from working on something you care about so much that you're willing to stay with it. Not just falling in love with something, but staying in love with it. In love with something is a very high barrier to achieve in our careers. Many of us only hope to find a career in which we truly love what we're doing. This alignment to career and passion comes from a strong personal philosophy, according to Duckworth. And we're going to talk about this in the course. We're going to start our first lesson by looking at our mindset and what your mindset has to do with your success. Look forward to seeing you there. As we indicated in the course introduction, being resilient and having grit comes from being passionate and persevering. In this lesson, we will look at our mindset and attitude. We all have heard many times about the importance of having a positive attitude and that looking at the glass as half full. And we're going to learn how to help develop this mindset in this next lesson. Guy Winch, a psychologist, gave a TED talk on emotional hygiene. His premise is that we favor looking after our physical selves more than we do our minds, and that our minds are more important to maintain. This is particularly relevant in terms of building resilience and overcoming setbacks. For example, the feeling of loneliness is toxic to the mind. The feeling of loneliness increases our chance of death by 14%, which is similar to the risk of smoking. Another toxin to the mind is the feeling of failure. When we fail, the mind tricks you into believing you can't do something. It compounds failure on one things to all things. It destroys resilience. This ties into the idea of pervasiveness, which we'll talk about in a later lesson. When we experience rejection, our minds say damaging messages to ourselves, that negative self-talk, such as, I'm not good enough, I don't look right, people know I'm a failure, everyone's looking at me. And rumination is another toxic habit of the mind. We ruminate when we replay situations over and over in our mind. We ruminate when we stew on different matters. All of these emotional states erode resilience, and to build executive presence, you need to recognize and address these states to persevere through adversity. So let me ask you this. How do you cope with failure? Everyone fails, all the time. 80% of small businesses fail within the first 2 years. It is how well you deal with and learn from failure that will determine if you will eventually become a success. Let's look at a few examples here. Richard Branson has a net worth of approximately $4.6 billion, but he wasn't always that successful. In his teens, Branson had poor reading and math skills, dropped out of high school, and is now proud to admit that he's been dyslexic all his life. His first business endeavor, the Student magazine, which he started when he was 16, had difficulties with the UK's law enforcement agency. Richard almost went to jail for publishing remedies for venereal disease in the magazine. Maybe not such a problem now, but 40 years ago that would have been a big deal. Didn't stop there. He almost went to jail for tax evasion when his Virgin record shop suffered severe cash flow problems. The experience, as he recalls, had a big impact on him. Vowed to myself that I would never again do anything that would cause me to be imprisoned or indeed do any kind of business deal that would embarrass me. The trend of failures, however, kept on going for a long time. Virgin Cola, Virgin Vodka, Virgin V, Virgin Brides, Virgin Clothing, Virgin Cars, Virgin Digital, all failed, and the list could go on for a long time. But as we know, he's had tremendous success since then. I guess you could say Branson is the king of the entrepreneurship club. If you're an entrepreneur and your first venture wasn't a success, welcome to the club. We all know Steve Jobs as the guru entrepreneur, the genius behind best-selling products such as the iPod, iPad, iPhone, and the MacBook. He is one of the most influential business figures of our time. And he's going to be forever remembered for the impact he's had on the digital world. Before that success, though, he also had his share of failures. In his first go-round at Apple, he and partner Steve Wozniak invested their savings and time into the Apple I, which sold a not-so-impressive 175 units. He then had a massive failure with a product that was named Lisa, which resulted in him leaving Apple for a time. Applying the principle, failure is just feedback, Jobs went on to create another company, NEXT. That company also met its demise due to hardware issues in the product. Eventually, the software division was sold to Apple, and Steve returned to his starting point. But now, armed with so many failures, Jobs was more determined than ever to succeed. His dream of creating a company that will still stand for something a generation or two from now, just like Walt Disney, was finally going to manifest. And finally, Bill Gates, with a net worth of close to $100 billion, has had his share of failures as well. His first company was Trafodata, the objective of which was to read the raw data from roadway traffic and create reports for traffic engineers. In this way, the company would optimize traffic and end road congestion. The company's product was the Trafodata 8008, a device which could read traffic tapes and process the data. They first tried to sell the processing service to the local county, but their first demo failed because the machine just didn't work. His partner Paul Allen summarized the experience for exactly what it was. Even though Trafodata wasn't a roaring success, it was seminal in preparing us to make Microsoft's first product a couple of years later. And happily, that's exactly what they did. They kept on going, and Microsoft became the largest personal computing software company in the world. But it's still nice to know that even the most successful entrepreneurs in the world can make business blunders. And I have certainly had my share of failures and challenges. My executive VP job at a publicly traded gold mining company was eliminated due to the collapse of the market back in 2012. I was initially devastated by this loss. Even though I had a fantastic contract, my identity was completely tied to my big job. In the small market of my city, it was nearly impossible to replace the income and perks that came with that job. Although I successfully found contract work shortly after, I couldn't shake the feeling of being a loser, and it severely impacted my confidence. I then found a role as a CFO for a large private company. I knew in my gut that it wasn't the right fit right from the start. But I was so desperate for the job security, the title, and the prestige that came with being the CFO that I took it anyways. A little over a year later, the corporate culture became unbearable and I decided to leave. Although the situation was not my fault, it was incredibly hard on me. I was extremely self-conscious and believed everyone thought I was to blame and that it was seen as another failure on my part. I avoided social situations and business networking for months. To be clear, not one person told me that I was a loser or that they believed it was my fault. But I created this monster in my head that was so convincing that I believed it. So how did I get past it? I made a decision to never work for someone that I didn't respect again and decided that I was going to build my own business and be successful on my own terms. And that's what I've done. 2 years later, Blair and I have a thriving, growing business and an excellent company. Believing in yourself when you're in the middle of a situation, that is just that, a situation, a point in time, something you have the power to change, makes all the difference. Dr. Carol Dweck published her best-selling book, Mindset, in 2006. In this book, she shares her research about how your mindset changes your outcomes in all areas of your life. Her work focuses on the power of people's beliefs and shows how changing these beliefs, even the simplest ones, can have profound life-changing effects. The views you have of yourself and your abilities can transform your life. Dr. Dweck's research shows that people can have either a fixed or a growth mindset. When you have a fixed mindset, you believe that your qualities are carved in stone. This creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over again. Every situation calls for confirmation of your intelligence, personality, and character. It is normal and fine to want to prove these traits, but with a fixed mindset, you believe that you are the hand that you've been dealt and it can't be changed. This is great when you're succeeding and everything is going well. But eventually, we all come upon a situation where someone else gets a job you wanted, when your romantic partner breaks up with you, when you don't do as well as you had hoped on that important test. That is life. But when you have a fixed mindset, these setbacks can be devastating because you always feel that you aren't good enough. You see it as a character flaw. What people think about you is everything. And that's a tough way to live. If you have some of these beliefs about yourself, you may have a fixed mindset. If you believe your intelligence is something very basic about you that you can't change very much, that you can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are. You are a certain kind of person, and there's not much you can do to change that. You can do things differently, but the important parts of who you are can't really be changed. On the other hand, you can have a growth mindset. This mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others. You believe your true potential is unknown and can grow and develop with passion, perseverance, and training. A passion for stretching yourself and sticking to it, even when things are going well, is the hallmark of the growth mindset. Imagine yourself having this day. You sleep in, and in a rush to get to work on time for an important meeting, you get a speeding ticket. Because of the delay with the police officer, you're almost late for an important meeting at work. You get a call from HR to tell you that you didn't get that promotion you applied for. You head home feeling dejected. You pick up your 2 young kids from daycare and one throws up in the car on the way home. It's not much fun. Great. Not only do you have to clean up the car, but you have a sick kid who will have to stay home tomorrow, and then so will you. People with a fixed mindset might react like this. I'm a loser. Nothing ever goes right. Life is unfair. Why do I even bother? I'm an idiot. What's wrong with me? They may take it out on someone else, eat an entire tub of ice cream, not that there's anything wrong with that, or refuse to get out of bed. But are any of these things catastrophic? Not at all. It's just a bad day, and we all have those. People with a growth mindset might say, I'll make sure that my alarm is set before I go to bed. I knew Susan was more qualified for that promotion than me. She'll do great, and I'll try again. I'll get backup babysitter arranged so that the next time a kid is sick, I won't have to stay home. Accept that it was a bad day, but be thankful that it wasn't worse. Come up with strategies to deal with life's inconveniences next time.